Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Wednesday, the 12th of January, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, let's get right in there and get started. Let's open up the charts right here. Take a look at what's going on. There's talks going on between the United States, U.S., NATO, Russia, over tensions over Ukraine. And basically, Russia does not want the Ukraine to ever be a part of NATO, or be a NATO member country, I should say. And it says that these talks there is no progress seen after the initial talks over Ukraine tensions. There's a lot of tensions building up on the border right there. There's a lot of troop movement on both sides of the border. It says Geneva, the United States and Russia have locked horns over Ukraine and other security issues Monday with no signs of progress from either side at a highly anticipated strategic talks. Low expectations from both Washington and Moscow about the high-stakes sessions in Geneva appeared to have been met as senior diplomats from the two countries emerged without offering any hints of success. Okay, so they're in talks right now, but there's extenuating circumstances coming about from this. Now, if we move over to the west and take a look at what's going on, there's this ENISA, okay, and this is what's going on in Europe right now. It says ENISA manages the programs of pan-European exercises named Cyber Europe. This is a series of EU-level security, cyber incident, and crisis management exercises for both the public and private sectors from the EU and EFTA member states. So what they're going to do is, well, it says it right here, simulations of large-scale cybersecurity incidents that escalate to become cyber crises. The exercise, it's going to be an exercise. Basically, they're testing their systems against cyber threats. I think that these two things going together, a invasion of Ukraine, a possible threat of an invasion of Ukraine, which would be war, has them checking out their cyber systems, and their what they're going to do is run simulations, large-scale cybersecurity incidents in Europe. So they're checking out their computer systems and stuff and trying to make them more hardened against any cyber attacks, you know. One of the things I've noticed for years is, and one of the potential threats out there, is there's many undersea cables that carry internet across, the ocean. That's how they carry it, is in cables. Why haven't they got it wireless yet by now? I mean, with our technology and everything, they should have it wireless, but no, they carry it with cables across the ocean floor. And those cables are very vulnerable, not just to attack from some other nation, like maybe Russia or China, chopping the cable in half. No, those cables are vulnerable to things like even sharks biting them, or earthquakes, or undersea volcanoes, or, what they've done is, I remember back around the year 1980, how our world was hardened against attacks and things like this. Things like the possibility of the internet going out. Heck, nobody used the internet, And if you don't have something, you don't miss it if it's gone. What they've done is they've created these unstable vulnerabilities in our world. We went into it too fast. Like 1980 wasn't that long ago. Even the year 2000. Heck, even in the early 2000s, like maybe 2005 and stuff, most stuff was still done by paper. We used to do everything by paper. paper mail. Yeah, I mean the old way we used to do things, in the old days was a bit slower. It took a bit more time, and but now things that seem like they're getting harder and harder to accomplish, even with the internet. And it's moved us into a world where we were supposed to have a softer, cushier lifestyle, like back in the 1950s. They used to say, "Hey, when we get all these modern conveniences," like they used to do shows and stuff back in the 1950s, showing what the future would possibly look like, how we'd have all these modern conveniences and everything. Push button, you just push a button and your meals would be prepared and everything. I think they were talking about the microwave oven and everything. And suppose everything was supposed to make our lives easier. All it's really done is made our lives far more complicated. You know? They went out into the jungle and they took a look at some of these bushmen and stuff, people that lived in tribes, out in the middle of nowhere. And they do not have to put in the amount of work that we have to put in with all of our modern conveniences. We're always doing something. It seems like we're always standing in line waiting for something, or we're always having to see, if you were to go back and say early America, had your farmers there. And they never waited for anything. They would get up in the morning, make their breakfast, Didn't have to wait in line or anything. They would go out and plow the field or whatever, hitch up the horses and plow the field or whatever, and they'd come back for lunch, and Aunt Betty or whatever would have all the biscuits cooked and everything, and they lived a pretty simple lifestyle, and everything was laid out for them. So once in a while, maybe they'd go into town, get in the horse and buggy and go into town in the 1930s or whatever, and there might be a movie playing at the theater, and they'd have to wait in line. It might be the first time all year they had to wait for something. And so it was a bit of a novelty, it was a little bit of fun, waiting in line, watching people go by and stuff. It wasn't a chore. But now, with this new modern society we have now, you're constantly having to wait for everything. And the man gets up in the morning and he has to wait while his coffee maker does, and then he has to go and he has to wait in traffic, in a big long line of traffic. He gets to the office and he has to go and wait in another line, constantly waiting in lines all day. This is not the way we were meant to live. This modern society, modern world has caused inconvenience, not convenience. But it's also made us super vulnerable to things like this, cyber attacks. It's created vulnerabilities within our whole system. It's created vulnerabilities. Heck, if the power goes off, we're done. If the internet goes down, we're done. Because we rely upon these systems now for our food, for our life even. And it's just, in my mind, it's just complete stupidity. But let's get in there and take a look at the markets now. Let's take a look at the silver price today. And it's up 29 cents at 23.06. So, it's good news for silver investors and gold investors. I'll tell you what. This round that the Fed's done, this first initial round of what they're doing, everything's going great. And I said, for months now, I've said they're going to get away with the first round. And then they could even get away with the second round. But the thing is this emboldens them. This makes them feel like, hey, this is fine. Markets aren't sliding under. Everything is not going to hell in a handbasket. We can do more. We're emboldened now. We're getting away with it. Let's see what we can do here. So now the Fed's talking about a balance sheet reduction later on, even on top of everything else that they've decided to do. They're going to sneak that one in. They're going to reduce their balance sheet probably toward the end of this year or whatever. They're thinking about starting that, along with raising interest rates, and that's coming next after they're done what they're doing right now, tapering down to zero. They're going to keep going as long as they can get away with it. They're going to keep pinching the market tighter and tighter. And, the market's saying to itself, hey, we got a little bit more wiggle room here still for a little bit more rallies and stuff, and they're out there, they just live for today. They just want to make their money today and get out and do what they're going to do. And so the market's still rolling with it, because things are still low. Interest rates are still historically low, uh, and they're just rolling with it. They don't care really what the Fed's doing right now. They just see a good period for where they can still be some money made, you know? But looking out, what I'm telling you guys is the Fed's going to keep pinching this and keep doing what they're doing until they break it. Then they'll turn around. But when they turn around this next time, you know, and they start the money creation machine, they start up the presses again, because they have to, because the markets are rolling down. And they'll do anything to protect the markets. Don't you kid yourself. Their main mandate is to support the rich people out there. Their rich buddies. They're not going to let their rich buddies all go to pieces, And the thing is they also they're looked at if they don't do anything about this inflation. Anyway, you guys know the story. You guys know that in just a few more months, that something's going to break for them and these markets are going to turn down viciously. Then they're going to turn around in the policy. That's what we're waiting for, because that's the real big one for gold and silver. Yeah, we might get a little bit of a rise in price in gold and silver and cryptos or whatever, right now, but this is not the big one. The big one is when the Fed changes policy direction again and goes back to a accommodative monetary policy. That's what we're waiting for. Because that's going to be the signal to everybody that the Fed's lost this war on inflation. There's no, the old transitory narrative's gone, and it's going to be inflation up to the moon, and the world will know. That's what we're waiting for, because that's when you're going to see your massive gains and everything that's out of the dollar. All the money's going to pour in. And in fact, at a certain point, it's going to be a stampede. Nelly, bar the gate. Anyway, so we're looking at a price of $23.05 for silver today. Gold today, $18.22, and she's up to $1. Now let's take a look at the cryptocurrency, and we're looking at, was it 2068 billions? Refresh the page, 2067 billions. So it's not really moving at all. Bitcoin price of 43,528. So it's creeping back up a little bit. You're going to get your best buying opportunities for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies during this period while the Fed is tightening everything up. And when this ends, and it's going to end suddenly when it ends, then your Bitcoin is going to become unaffordable for most average people at that point in time, What I'm kind of expecting is in the first quarter of this year, Bitcoin to be declared the worst performing asset, cryptos to be declared the worst performing asset class out there in the first quarter, right? And then at the end of this year, they'll be declared the best performing asset class. That's kind of what I'm expecting. So can you guys think that that's going to create a buying opportunity at a certain point? But the thing is this could go down lower, this number, 43,000. I'm going to put a floor in it at around 29,000. That's the floor, I think. But I don't really think it's going to go down that low, But even right now, if you look back in the future, you're going to say, gee, that was a good buying opportunity at 43,000. I mean, because Bitcoin at a certain point is going to go astronomical, and so is silver and gold. I mean, all these asset classes out of the dollar, I preach it to you guys, and I preach it to you guys because this is where you need to be. The dollar's going down. It's going to go down hard. And if that's all you got, you're going to be a sad camper. Anyway, Let's take a look now at Dow Jones today. Is down 23 points. Refresh the page. Down 18 points. So it's drifting near the board, like even with the board. It's 36,233, and it's struggling to stay in the 36s. It's wanting to go down to the 35s now at this point. Let's take a look now at crude oil, 82.61. And it looks like it's up 1.7% or $1.39. It's really on a tear. I mean, that crude oil price, is a strong indicator. And right now, I mean, that's an awful high price it's getting up to for crude. Let's take a look now at the move index going along sideways at 77.85, so it won't stay there very long. Bonds, the pressure's off now. I told you guys the mark. The U.S. 10-year today is at 1.73. I told you guys the mark is 1.75. So we're going to have stability in these markets as long as this U.S. 10-year stays below 1.75, and it's at 1.73. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it moves back down to the 160s. And it's going to stay there for a little while, for weeks. It's waiting until the Fed's next move. Okay. Okay, they're holding some sort of a briefing on COVID-19 or something or another. Okay. Let's take a look now at the U.S. dollar index and see what's going on here. We didn't do the 10-year. The 10-year is at 1.73 and the U.S. 30-year is at 2.08. So expect it to drift between, say, 1.5 in the U.S. 10-year and probably 1.8, somewhere in there. It's probably gonna be in the 160s, I imagine, in the U.S. 10-year. Over the next month or so, while the Fed's getting ready for their next big cut of $30 billion a month. That'll give them up to $60 billion. See, it's accumulative. This first one was $30 billion, and they're going to add $30 more billion to it. That's $60 billion. And the next month, they're going to add $30 more billion. And then the final month, they're down to zero. That means they're not going to be buying any U.S. Treasuries anymore. That's when yields are going to spike up. That's when the market's going to have problems. Is when they're not buying any U.S. Treasuries anymore. And then they plan on raising interest rates. And they can get away with that. Then they're going to balance sheet reduction. Oh boy, they're just going to keep going. They're going to keep going until they break it. And I mean, if they can get away with all that by the end of the year, then they'll really start to cut. I mean, they're going to just keep going. They're going to keep bending that stick until it snaps. There's no stopping them. Dollar index today, 95.14. This is quite a considerable little drop in the dollar just in the last little bit here. We've seen a half a penny drop. That's quite a big drop in the U.S. dollar index today. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. Bye-bye.